Doug, 22 years ago tonight, the first season of American Idol came to an end. Do you think you could sing under pressure?
No, I prefer Bohemian Rhapsody.
Some people will tell you to play it safe, but we're here to tell you to go all out. Welcome to the All-Out Blitz. I'm your host, JJ Wenner, and I am joined by my keen comrade, DougOrth. Now, Doug, I had two live-ish drafts. Is that what you call a live draft, that you're not in person, like live-ish?
Live-ish, yes, definitely live-ish.
So I had two live-ish drafts this weekend. I finished two more slow drafts, and I am done. How many drafts have you done in the past week?
We're pushing 20. I don't know. I haven't counted, but we're pushing 20.
20 drafts.
Something like that. I had no more than 2 a day, but somewhere around 20, yeah.
Now, we are recording at 5:38 on a Wednesday. Kickoff is tomorrow. How many more drafts do you have between now and then?
I have a sickness that needs to be fed. I have 3 more. I have 2 more tonight, 9 and 10:15, and then again at tomorrow afternoon at 3. It's a sickness, but it needs to be exercised and needs to be helped out. So
yeah, I don't know if that's how you get the poison out, but I try, Doug, not to make a habit out of complimenting you.
Oh.
But I'm going to make an exception. I did the Brian Drake plan this weekend, and I entered my 2 live-ish drafts with 1 sheet of paper. That's it. Your PPR big board, nothing else. And I have to say, I walked out of both elated over my rosters.
You sound surprised.
I'm not. Well, I am, because usually I walk out like I'm always like second guessing, but I was happy. How are you walking out of your drafts? Have you been happy?
Yes, for the most part. And I used to always get told when I had the championship feeling coming out of a draft that, oh no, that's just the feeling that you have when everybody thinks that their draft is great or whatever. I did a couple last night in particular that just seemingly everything fell into place. But I don't know I was going through my rosters last night. I'd say there's maybe 2 in there that I'm going to have to that don't strike me as being like right, but a lot of them feel pretty good. So I'm happy with it so far.
Well, I have a story I have to share with you and of course the listener. So I'm drafting the 16th year of our father-son league. Right, all of our sons are now almost like 28. They're about to be 30. Right in that range, and I kept getting sniped by my son. Now, I love him, so it's okay. I don't care if my son snipes me, but he's doing an amazing job. We're all on a Zoom, and some of the other managers they're starting to comment on how good his team is. It was at this point, Doug, that I remembered back about 3 hours when I had a phone call with that son, and he said, Oh, do you happen to have any rankings I could borrow? And I said, oh, my darling son, let me send you over my buddy Doug's PPR big board. Worst decision ever. Ever. Every time I went to grab one of my guys, which we're going to be talking about tonight on the show, my son already had him. So, curses to you, DougOrth, for helping my son steal all my guys.
Fantasy is supposed to bring people closer together, and it seems like I'm separating. I'm pushing families further apart. That's not the good.
Do not be mistaken. I love my son even more for doing that. You are the one who I'm upset with. My son's an angel, and how dare you besmirch his good name?
Oh wow! Thank you, JJ. That all sounds really good, and in your own special way, that warms my heart. So.
I love when I give you a compliment, yet kick you squarely in the nuts.
Yes.
Tonight on the show, we're going to be talking about our guys, the players that Doug and I just couldn't quit. So, Doug, just to kick off the segment, to you, what constitutes a my guy?
Yeah, for me, a my guy in the early rounds means someone I implicitly trust to be a cornerstone or foundational piece of my team. In the later rounds, it usually is someone I believe the market is underestimating and sometimes greatly underestimating. What do you think, Jay? What do you think about your my guy, JJ?
Well, I approached it a different way. So when I'm trying to decide who are my guys, I look at my rosters from the beginning of the offseason until now, and I chose the guys for this exercise who kept finding their way onto my roster for reasons good, bad, or indifferent, whether it's a preconceived notion, somebody who I'm higher on than everybody else. But I either love them or their value. I just can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Probably should have stolen your explanation.
Well, yours is much more professional and sounds intelligent. I just sound like a clown on a unicycle juggling some balls. But
why stop what's worked so well for you in the past, right?
Hey, that's rough. I do juggle in school for the kids. I do feel like a circus clown some days. But anyway, Doug and I broke down the positions into two categories. First, players selected in the first 10 rounds, and then those selected after the 10th. So, Doug, let's kick it right off. Who is your early round QB?
Well, this will come as no surprise to you, even though there's been peaks and valleys and bumps along the road. So it was clearly Anthony Richardson for most of the summer. I guess that would still technically be my answer, but the difference between now and a month ago was how comfortable I have become with the supposedly low-end QB1s such as Jayden Daniels and Jordan Love. So I have rarely drafted quarterbacks in the first 5 or so rounds over the last 2 weeks. And that's typically where I've seen him go. Now, I was lucky in one of the high-stakes drafts I did last night. He fell to me in the 7th round, and bing, bam, boom. That was definitely a sweet spot there. So with that said, I noted in my bold predictions this week that I believe Richardson could outscore Josh Allen if both players play roughly the same number of games. Richardson's better athlete is likely to run more behind a better offensive line in what should be a more explosive offense. I don't think Allen comes anywhere close to his 15 rushing scores again. So it would be shocking to me if Richardson doesn't outscore him by a fairly wide margin purely as a rusher. Now, I don't want to make this an Allen versus Richardson debate, but I'm trying to make a point here. Allen is without question the better passer at this point, but one of the great equalizers in fantasy is pace and or play volume. Yeah. I think I would also give the edge to Richardson when it comes to sporting cast. Michael Pittman Jr. and hopefully a healthy Josh Downs have already proven they have the ability to get open. Not sure I feel the same way, even about Dalton Kincaid. I'm not sure I feel that about Buffalo yet. I don't think anybody on that team has really proven it yet, at least over the course of a full year. Anyway, presence of Jonathan Taylor also means the defenses have to respect the run, which will simplify the coverages Richardson sees. So I think when you have a 200, 250, I'd say at least a 200 point floor as a rusher, which Richardson should have, and then what should be simplified coverage with a better supporting cast, I think the environment is about as good as one could ask for as far as Richardson. Now he just needs to comply and complete more than 60% of his passes.
That would help. That would help, Doug.
So how about you, JJ? Who's your early round guy?
For me, Doug, my early round QB has shifted the last few weeks, but it wasn't because of me. So I loved Jayden Daniels earlier, right? I wasn't taking a QB early enough to get Anthony Richardson. Jayden Daniels kept falling to me. But I'll be damned, he's been creeping up boards.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, his ADP is rising. And the last few drafts, I found myself taking Caleb Williams. Now, I'm going to be as succinct as possible, but effusive. He has a great set of weapons this year. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Kmet, Swift. It's a breathtaking amount of talent for a 1-1 to walk into. Like, seldom do you see a first overall quarterback have that kind of weapons at their disposal. Also, are we overlooking his rushing upside? I know he didn't rush a lot last year, but he averaged 500 yards and 9 TDs per season in his 3 years of college. He's displayed the quickness needed to scramble in the NFL as well in the preseason. Their defense is mid at best, so they're going to need to score points. So for me, I love taking Caleb Williams as my QB1 later in the draft, pairing him with another quarterback, and then loading up on all the other positions. That's what I've been doing. Who is your late round QB, Doug?
I will give you two quickly. First one is Matthew Stafford, if only because he's almost free, has been almost free in most of my leagues. Actually, he's been a free agent in several of them. We're talking $500 and $1,000 entries. So these guys aren't playing around. If they think that he could contribute, they would have already drafted him. So I'm going to ask you a somewhat rhetorical question, JJ. Can you remind me of the last time a quarterback wasn't at least somewhat relevant in fantasy when he had two receivers going in the first 2 rounds of drafts?
No.
Okay, so then why is Stafford going undrafted?
I don't know.
From weeks 12 to 17, and this is coincidentally when Kyren Williams returned from his injury, Stafford was the QB6. He had multiple touchdowns in all those games. Anyway, my other late-round QB is going to be surprising. It's surprising to me, but it shouldn't be surprising to most. It's Jared Goff. I hate narratives, but things stop becoming narratives when they make sense and or are proven over several years. Goff has, without question, been a better quarterback at home or inside a dome when his arm strength isn't quite as much of an issue. Not only does Detroit have a great supporting cast and great offensive line around him, and I don't think we've mentioned this enough here, JJ, 14 of his 17 games this season are indoors. I think there was one around week 8, week 9 in Green Bay, and there's a couple in the fantasy playoffs. So you're telling me a predominantly stud dome quarterback has, during the fantasy regular season, has one game where he's not playing in the dome with a great supporting cast and great offensive line. Sign me up.
There is so much value falling down these boards. I know our amigo Jorge was on here with us. He was talking about all the indoor games that Goff has lined up. But the value is just falling for QBs. Like, I don't know. I love when you can.
And I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a real life example. One night in that draft last night, I told you with Anthony Richardson, where basically everything just fell on my lap. Like couldn't have hoped it could go any better. I got to thinking, Anthony Richardson. I have some concerns about his ability to stay healthy. Give me the dome quarterback. So that's what I ended up pairing Richardson with Goff, and I feel really good about that. So, who's your late round quarterback, JJ?
Well, Doug, what is the opposite of a homer pick? Right? Sometimes we pick guys from our favorite teams because we love them so much, and everybody calls us a homer.
Homer.
But me picking Aaron Rodgers makes my stomach hurt. I don't want to take him, but I can't stop doing it at the end of drafts. Like, especially with me, Doug, taking a lot of Caleb Williams. I just love how Rodgers' schedule fits with his. Using, of course, your big board where you have it all color-coded for me. Like, there are so many favorable matchups between the two of them, and they just fit together like peanut butter and mayonnaise. Wait.
Rodgers and Will Levis? What?
But for me, like, will Rodgers post a top 12 QB season? I think he has a solid opportunity to, even without rushing upside. Again, he's not going to run. But Breece and Wilson are both explosive targets who can take any touch to the end zone. He has Big Mike Williams, a revitalized, supposedly Lazard. They can handle big-bodied throws, red zone targets. Corley and Gibson provided like that Randall Cobb he had in Green Bay. A little more juice. I don't know. The Jets' all-time record for passing yards are 4,007 and 31 TDs.
Wow.
I think Rodgers, if healthy this year, can easily break both of those. So I love picking up Aaron Rodgers, although I hate him as a player, kind of as a person, but I just can't quit him.
That's our future vice president you're talking about, okay?
Oh! No politics on this. Before I say something I'm going to regret. All right, sir. Who is your, and I could answer this for you,
Yeah.
who is your early round running back who you've been drafting a ton of?
JJ, it has become Josh Jacobs.
What?
I have not been able to determine if the indifference surrounding him is a product of last year, which should have been predictable given the late report and the coming off a heavy workload season, or if it's Matt LaFleur's supposed preference for committee backfields, or how high people were on Marshawn Lloyd as a prospect. Let's think about this for a second, JJ. Did Green Bay cut Aaron Jones so it could pay another committee back more money?
No.
Unlikely.
Okay.
Marshawn Lloyd never topped 116 carries or 18 catches in college and defaulted bouncing runs outside of it too often for a 220-pound running back at two different schools, mind you. There also seems to be a widely held belief that Lloyd is the superior player in the passing game, yet Jacobs has topped 50 catches in a season twice. And if you go back to his Alabama days, he was pretty good as a receiver there too. Maybe, just maybe, Green Bay, like Philadelphia and Saquon Barkley, saw what Christian McCaffrey did for the 49ers offense and thought, JJ, we need to get one of those all-purpose backs for ourselves.
What's old is new again, my friend.
Honorable mention for this question. Honorable mention, I'll go with Kenneth Walker, who I was able to get at 404 in a recent 1K draft after an A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, and DK Metcalf start. Any running back with the potential to be featured, especially back in what should be a very good offense, should not be going that late. JJ, who's your early round my guy at running back?
I find that all of my guys are like closer to the 10th round than they are the first round. But this is probably more about my overall strategy in redraft leagues this year. But I have a lot of Javonte Williams as my RB2. So I am starting RB wide receiver RB in the first two rounds normally. And then I just continue to hammer wide receiver, sprinkling at a tight end at some point. But after 6 rounds, right, I have 1 running back, 4 wide receivers, and a tight end. And there's a couple players who always end up on the board. Javonte, Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, Singletary, and Warren. Right? They all come as a cohort together. And when I look at them, I'm taking Javonte every time. Washington's O-line is trash. And I can't guarantee that Jaden's going to check down to Eckler. So they're kind of both off the board for me. The Giants are terrible. And Jaylen Warren has Najee to contend with. Javonte is now 2 years removed from his knee injury, which is typically the back to normal year for a running back. He was still productive with over 1,000 yards from scrimmage last year. And will Estime McLaughlin take touches? Sure. But I don't think any more than Samjay Perine and McLaughlin took last year. I see Javonte landing squarely in the middle to top half of the RB2 range for me. And for me, that is worth the late round 7, early round 8 price tag.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was too low on Williams when my first big boards came out, and I think he ended up around RB22, RB23 for me. I'm right there with you on Javonte. I probably don't have enough of him, but then the way I built my teams early, it hasn't made sense for me to go that direction. But I've got a couple, and this is not a humble brag by any stretch because this has never happened to me. But my 2 drafts tonight, I'm picking number 1 in both of them. So, and there's a fair chance and we'll talk about this off air. Maybe we'll talk about it on air. I don't know. I'm thinking I'll go McCaffrey in 1, Breece Hall in the other, and there's a good chance, like we discussed in the draft plan, that I might not take another running back until the 7th round. And Javonte Williams could very easily be my second running back in both those teams. So,
and I would be very excited to have a CMC Javonte RB1, RB2.
Because and I'll tell you, I don't remember him ever going before the start of the 7th round in any of my drafts. So I don't want to count on that, but definitely.
Well, Doug, who is your late round running back?
Okay, well, I believe you and I have talked about this gentleman a time or two in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to end up having probably over 50% exposure on Jaylen Wright. The reasoning is relatively simple. Raheem Mostert is 32 years old with a somewhat lengthy injury history. Devon Achane added some muscle to his frame in the offseason, but missed 6 games as a rookie due to an injury and barely played in a 7th. One of those running backs I just mentioned is coming off a 21 touchdown season. The other one is coming off the most efficient season by running back in league history. Wright is bigger physically than Mostert and just about as explosive as Achane, which means Wright, in theory, should be the primary handcuff for two injury. I'm not going to say injury-prone running backs, but 2 running backs with an injury history that, just like I said, have struggled at times to stay healthy. And an offense ran by one of the most creative offensive minds in the league. So when I started thinking about Wright being the handcuff to both guys, that's when things start changing for me. So, and if it's not Wright, it's going to be Blake Corum, but I don't want to get. I have 2 guys I'm targeting, and when I can get them both in the 10th and 11th round, I am thrilled.
Yeah,
JJ.
You might be able to get them a little bit even later than that. Jaylen Wright, I just picked up. I drafted Jonathan Brooks in one of my 2 home leagues, and I threw him on the IR and got Jaylen Wright off of waivers because he fell.
Yeah, I have not found that. Well, I found when I wait until the 11th round, I'm rolling the dice on getting either one, if not both, in my drafts.
Really?
So, and I'm at that price, I'm still comfortable because what are we doing with our 10th and 11th round picks most years anyway?
Well, if you love him in the 12th, I love him as a free agent. Get Jaylen Wright. In fact, in one of the drafts, I kept telling this kid who was complaining, because of course they're all my former basketball players and I'm trying to help them. I'm like, take Jaylen Wright. Why don't you take Jaylen Wright? And nobody would take it. So I did.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Don't listen to the old man. What does he know?
JJ.
Right. Yeah.
JJ, who's your late round running back? My guy.
Oops, I did it again.
Oh, no.
I found a rookie I love, and I smash draft every time I can. On March 21st, that's a long time ago, Doug, I recorded probably my 2nd pod out of retirement, and it was a running back prospect pod, and I was shouting, I love Ray Davis. And guess what, Doug? I still do.
Oh,
James
true love. True
Cook.
love.
Well, it is true love. James Cook is not explosive. Can I say that again? James Cook is not explosive. I was sold a bill of goods. I was told that this is going to be an explosive back that's going to take the Bills' offense to another level. Of all backs with at least 100 carries, fantasy points, your employer has him as the 24th most explosive back, behind such luminaries as Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, and Devin Singletary. Cook was also 46th in percent of team carries inside the 5. 46. He doesn't get inside carries. He doesn't get the red zone carries. And he was a dismal 47th in TD rate. Now, according to PFF at Kentucky, Ray Davis had 16 runs of 15-plus yards. Explosive runs. That was 11th in all of college football. His breakaway rate was 44.7%. He's fantastic after contact, ranking 6th last year with 3.81 yards after contact. Now, imagine Josh Allen with a tough, explosive back that can take some of that running game off of his shoulders. You already said Josh Allen's not going to repeat those TD numbers.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's going to take him. Did I also mention that Ray Davis was 9th among running backs in yards per route in college? Did I?
Nope.
That he can catch the ball too?
Twitter is telling me that he can't.
Yeah, well, he sure seems to have done a solid job. So, as a late round flyer, and I do mean late, you can grab him easily in the 18th round. Grab him in the 18th round. Pick up my favorite dude, Ray Davis. All right. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. I love Ray Davis. I love it. Big back, fast feet. Oh, love it.
I'm feeling good about Ray Davis now too.
See? Ooh, maybe you'll draft.
Oh no, I already liked Ray Davis, but yeah,
okay,
awesome.
Good. All right, sir. Enough about running backs. Who is your early round wide receiver?
Well, the obvious answer for me is your guy. Well, my guy, but your guy, because he's a Jet, Garrett Wilson. But he's usually going in the first round, so not everybody will get a chance to get him.
Oh.
If we move back a few rounds, I usually see if I can somehow snag Terry McLaurin as my wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. This one's not hard, folks. This one's not hard, folks. For the sake of context, allow me to remind you, who some of his notable quarterbacks have been over his 5-year NFL career. You ready? You ready, JJ?
I'm ready. I'll recognize these guys. Go ahead.
Stop me when you hear a stud, okay? Case Keenum. Dwayne Haskins.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Colt McCoy.
No, not yet.
Alex Smith.
One-legged or two-legged, Alex Smith?
That year, it might have been one leg that year, but okay. I don't want to. That guy had great. Kudos to his recovery, by the way. I don't want to make light of that.
Oh, no, not at all.
Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett. Jaden Daniels is kind of a huge upgrade.
A little bit, right? A little bit,
yeah.
A little bit.
Okay, so let's. I like to always come back to, okay, what if the pie in the sky thing doesn't happen? So let's just say Daniels is a minimal upgrade. Well, okay. McLaurin is finished as the wide receiver 29, 19, 25, 16, and 32 in his career. So the floor has already been set with poor quarterback play. All I'm going to say here is I doubt it's going to get worse with better quarterbacking in the Cliff Kingsbury offense. While the quarterback upgrade should be enough of a reason to value McLaurin a little bit higher than maybe we have in the past, let's look at what the Commanders have out for options behind him. Luke McCaffrey has a chance to be good, but I'm not ready to believe he's going to be a 60-catch wideout as a rookie. I say it's possible. I'm not going to say it's likely. De'Ami Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus are good field stretchers, but they have to prove that they're anything else besides that. Zach Ertz, and I'm going through all the team names in my head when I read Zach Ertz there. Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler were good veteran additions, but I have yet to name anyone that can or will keep McLaurin from pushing for 150 targets. He had 132 last year, and it was a down year. Anyway, shameless plug. Please check out my bold predictions article that just dropped on Tuesday for a more detailed explanation on why I think it's a realistic possibility that McLaurin will be finished as a top 15 receiver this year. But I think that's definitely well within the realm of possibility. Where should they go to check out that article? I am still doing quality work at FF Today, so do a good search for FF Today bold predictions, and I bet you're gonna DougOrth, and you'll come across my 7 bold predictions with explanations, and then I had 4 more after that were just random, one sentence predictions. And no, I've had people ask me before about, you said in bold predictions this, and you said in your big board that. People, there's a reason there are bold predictions. Okay, trust my big board first. We're doing this because the boss tells me I should do it. Okay. So.
Oh no! You have to believe in your article more than that, my friend. I don't like that negative, self-defeating attitude.
No, but seriously, and I explained this in the intro too, that I think these things could happen. I'll give you the rationale as to why I think they could happen. But if I'm putting my money on one of the two, I'm putting my money on the big boards and not the bold predictions. Enough.
Absolutely. But
Enough.
No, hold on.
Yes.
But one of the most important things to read when Doug writes his articles are his rationales, because it walks you through the logical process that we should all be taking when approaching players. Whether or not it's a bold prediction or his big board, make sure you're understanding how Dougie does what he does.
Oh.
He's going to teach us how to Dougie. One day we're going to play it. One day. We just have to get the right.
And I'm going to learn how to do it too. JJ.
No, because I don't think you'll ever be able to do it. Nor I.
JJ, who's your early round my guy at receiver?
Well, this was easy for me. My early receiver is Diontae Johnson.
Yeah.
Diontae is hashtag good at football. Now, for years, all I've ever heard is Diontae being attacked for lack of middle work or deep work, or he drops it too much, blah, blah, blah. Everybody hates him. Guess what? At the end of the day, Diontae Johnson, hashtag good at football.
Good at football, still.
Matt Harmon's success by route tree was lit up like it was Christmas, with Javonte posting a 75+ success rate on every route but go route. Every route. The Panthers are, more importantly, Bryce Young desperately needed a receiver who could get open quickly. And that is exactly what they got with Diontae Johnson. Reception perception also shows that he is successful against every type of coverage. 75% against man, 82 against zone, 78 against press, 86 against double teams. And fresh from Doug's new teammate at Fantasy Points, Ryan Heath tweeted today that Diontae Johnson ranked second overall in the brand new separation score. He ranked second from the slot position, 8th from out wide, 1st in separation against man, and 6th against zone. I don't know what we're doing here, people. It's wheels up for Diontae this year. He is going to get more targets than you can shake a stick at. I don't know how many that is, but I think it's a lot. But there is no scenario, Doug, for me, outside of injury, that Diontae doesn't end up as a wide receiver 2 this season. I don't like to make guarantees.
Yeah.
I just can't see Diontae Johnson, if Bryce Young is healthy and he is healthy, that he does not end up at least in the top 24 wide receivers. So, considering that he's going as a wide receiver 4, I have not left many drafts without him.
And what's funny with him is, I mean, he's been getting hyped most of the summer, and the fact he's still going in the 30 to 40 range, it tells you how deep the position is. But my God, I think I have him as, I want to say, wide receiver 24, something like that. I've got him as a wide receiver 4 with behind I don't know, I probably had something like a Garrett Wilson. I don't know, maybe I had like a Garrett Wilson, McLaurin, Ridley, and then Johnson was my wife, something like that. I don't know. That was probably one of my worst foursomes as far as receivers. I mean, we're talking 150 target is a real possibility here.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I'll get off my soapbox. I'm a little too excited about Diontae Johnson. I'm ready to be let down, but I'm ready.
Well, you're a Jets fan. You're used to getting let down. Oh.
All right, Doug. Who is your late round wide receiver, you mother lumper?
Oh, that's right. That's why I don't have a favorite team, so you can't do that to me. Well, my late round, my guy at receiver is pretty easy for me as well. While he doesn't possess quite the same contingent upside as Jaylen Wright in the running back section, Andrei Iosivas is a screaming value in the 16th round area, or at least that's about where I'm usually getting him. Most of us have likely seen the report by now about Jermaine Burton not taking his business seriously, which should free up Iosivas to fill up the Tyler Boyd role in this offense at worst. Okay, just like I did earlier, I want to bring out the not the worst case scenario, but the floor scenario here.
Okay.
Tyler Boyd has been a top 50 fantasy receiver in every season since the Bengals drafted Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Okay, that's the role. That's the role that Iosivas is probably stepping into. I would argue that Iosivas is a more dynamic prospect. He's certainly more athletic. Mm-hmm. But that floor is not the only reason to draft or add him now. Jamar Chase, may have reported to practice today, being Wednesday, but we know the deal with late reports. They seem to be at an increased risk for soft tissue injuries. If Chase or Higgins are forced to miss time this year, it will be Iosivas that fills that role as a solid second receiver in a very good offense. And I'd be willing to bet we're talking about him as a surefire weekly starter at wide receiver 3 for us in fantasy if that happens. So
I have to tell you, Doug, in the 2 drafts I did this weekend, 16 rounds each, Iosivas didn't go in either. He didn't go in either.
And it's befuddling to me that it's still happening now. I mean, even with Chase not holding in, but not practicing for as long as he has. It's not quite the mystery that Diontae Johnson going at wide receiver 35-40 is, but to me, it's pretty close.
Doug, I don't know if it's a mystery, and I know it's going to sound simplistic and silly.
Yeah.
People can't pronounce his name. Right? We know he's stepping into the Tyler Boyd role. Tyler Boyd is always being drafted ahead of Iosivas. I think sometimes it's as simple as people being uncomfortable with the unknown. They've never really seen the player. They probably haven't done research. They weren't watching him as a rookie. And now they see this guy's name pop up and they're like,
But people told me Jermaine Burton was the man, and they're still hanging on to their priors or other people's priors as it may be. Yeah, you're right. That's entirely possible. I mean, and I don't base this. I mean, I didn't go to Princeton. I didn't watch Princeton film. I mean, I didn't. It's not like I didn't really pay attention that much to him at the combine. Certainly, I watched the combine. I didn't pay that much attention to him other than he tested. I knew he tested well. I watched last year when Joe Burrow said, "Yeah, I'm comfortable to him." He caught 4 touchdowns on 19 passes. I mean, when he was asked to fill in, he filled in well. Then he spent the offseason, improving his craft, and then when I won't say the hype, but when I'm going to call it the hype here, when the hype follows what you know about the guy, then that's usually a pretty good. That's usually a decent recipe for success, at least when it comes to identifying late round prospects. JJ, you're late round, my guy receiver.
All right. For me, I'm taking Jakobi Meyers in the 12th round as wide receiver 53. Last year, Meyers finished as wide receiver 28. Sure, I know. He scored 8 receiving TDs, and that rate is unsustainable. I can agree with that. But for a second, can we stop arguing both sides about Jakobi Meyers? When he was with the Patriots, all I heard is he can't score TDs. He can't score TDs. Now he went out and scored TDs, and everybody's like, well, he can't score that many again. It's like, he did exactly what you wanted to do. Leave the man alone. But for me, last year, he had Jimmy G and AOC throwing him the ball. I don't know how big of an upgrade Minshew is, but he clearly beat out AOC in the offseason for the starting role. And Jimmy G's somewhere else. I don't even know. Where is Jimmy G? Is he anywhere?
Rams.
Oh. Anyway, Jimmy G's gone. So now I understand everybody's saying about Gardner Minshew is that he hyper focuses on his wide receiver 1. So everybody's like, oh, we know who's going to get the ball. It's going to be Adams. But last year, he targeted Josh Downs 77 times in 13 games for 573 yards and 2 TDs. Are we saying that Jakobi is going to also take a backseat to Adams and Bowers? Possibly. But again, there's plenty of targets to go around. It's not like they have a great running game. Sorry, Zamir White fans. But if Bowers is taking even more attention and Adams is taking attention, that means Meyers is going to be open a lot more. I love Jakobi Meyers. I've been grabbing him at the end of drafts for a few years now. Do you have any thoughts on Jakobi?
It's funny, a little bit ironic that you mentioned him because I swear I've seen the biggest variance on him in my high stakes drafts over the last 2 weeks. I've seen him go as early as the 7th, and I think I've seen him go as late as the 14th or 15th. I just to see that kind of variance on a guy. There's no disputing what he did early last year. He slowed down a little bit as I believe it was AOC's. Once AOC started taking over on a more regular basis, then his numbers started coming down to like wide receiver 4 level. But I mean, there gets to be a point. I don't know I would feel comfortable taking him in the early double-digit rounds, and I think he's going to be consistently there. It depends what my build is, and I hate to talk about stuff like that. I hate to talk about builds because that implies that that implies that you have a plan going into the draft, or at least I think it does. And I mean, but if I have 6 receivers, I'm not going to make him my 7th, that type of thing. So anyway.
Well, I don't think that saying build implies that you entered with the plan.
Yeah.
I think build is just where you end up with after 12 rounds, and you're looking at Jakobi Meyers.
That's probably just a me thing. I don't know. I don't like I guess build is the best word I can use to just the way you described it there. I mean, the way that you've constructed your team through 10 rounds or whatever, that's your build. Not, you didn't have and I didn't go in with a 0 RB build. I didn't go with a bully tight end build. I hate those terms to begin with. So another story, another subject for another day, but nothing wrong. If you're telling me, what do you think? What do you think baseline that Meyers can do this year? You thinking like 60 catches, 800 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns?
Yeah,
something along those lines.
Around those lines. I mean, I don't see him getting 100 catches. I don't see him even getting 80. Probably like 60 to 70.
And I love what you said about him and his touchdowns. Can't score, and now he can't score that much. So apparently he's in the 4. How some people are in the friend zone. Apparently he's in the 4 to 5 touchdown zone, right?
That's just where he has to end up. He'll just never average that. Either at 0 or 8. This year, though, he'll be fine. All right. Let's get out of the wide receivers.
Yep.
Talk about some tight ends. Who is your early round tight end?
The talent has never been in question with Kyle Pitts. Unfortunately, it took Atlanta until his 4th year as a pro to get Pitts a quarterback capable of maximizing his talents. I know I've said this before on one of our pods. Pitt's best quarterback over his first 3 seasons was an aging Matt Ryan in 2021 when he became only the 2nd tight end in league history to exceed 1,000 yards as a rookie. People seem to forget with Pitts that 2022 was a disappointment because of bad quarterbacking, and 2023 was a disappointment because he still wasn't healthy and the quarterbacking wasn't any better. Plus, Arthur Smith, our beloved Arthur Smith, had to make sure that Jonnu Smith got fed, I guess. So, despite how disappointing Pitts has been to some, he is still responsible for 2 of the top 15 receiving yardage seasons by a tight end under the age of 24 in league history. And that has come with poor quarterback play, to say the least. I'm aware of the recent reports about his hamstring, the one that just came out today, being Wednesday, September 4th. But it sounds like the injury happened a couple of weeks ago. We should know soon enough if it's still a concern, but I would bet against it since it sounds like a maintenance issue for now. Early round, my guy at tight end for you, JJ.
Well, who is my early round tight end, you asked, Doug?
I do.
Why, none other than Mr. Tight End 2 last year himself, Mr. Evan Engram. Now, for some strange reason, he's being drafted as the tight end 6 this year. I find that I can get him in the late 6th. And I basically consider him to be the last of that top tier of tight ends.
Yep.
I don't think we're ever going to go back to the Kelsey days when a tight end would dominate the position group over everybody else. I think we're going to see about 4 to 6 dudes who are going to average between 12 and 14 points. This like moderate range of good tight ends. And Engram is in that group. Unless, and Doug, this is the problem with too much data.
Yeah.
And I've been digging into the data.
Where at and why?
Fantasy points. And the more I dove in, I became a little worried. So I'm actually coming to you sort of as my tight end therapist right now, Doug.
Okay. I have a psychology degree, so go ahead.
So I noticed in fantasy points data that Engram had 116 first read targets, the most in the league. He also had 8 drops, second most in the league at tight end. But it made me wonder, was Ingram's finish a result of Ridley and Kirk just not getting it done? And so he was the primary target on 116 attempts. So does Brian Thomas start to get more looks early and relegate Engram down the pecking order? I love information, Doug. I love it. But I hate when it starts messing with my head. So help me. Was Evan Engram a product of his environment last year?
Well, if you're thinking another 100-catch season is in the offing, I would say no. But okay, so you mentioned the first read targets versus the drops. I'm not concerned about the drops so much as that's going to happen when you see 100 some odd targets. I mean, there's very few Tyler Lockett's in the league that are going to get targeted 100 times and have 1 or 2 drops.
Okay.
116 first read targets, that's pretty darn impressive. My thought with Engram goes like this, though. He exploded about the time Christian Kirk got hurt. In fact, I think it wasn't a coincidence. I think when Christian Kirk got hurt the last 5 games, it was basically Engram. Or that's when he went on his tear. I think Brian Thomas is going to play the role that Calvin Ridley was miscast in last year. Run a lot of outs, run the deep stuff because he's bigger, and Thomas is gonna play the role this year that he should be playing, not the one Ridley was playing last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because Ridley should have been inside.
Yeah, and they didn't have a choice. They didn't have much of a choice other than to use him as an X because they didn't have any other receivers there capable of handling that. Anyway, I would feel. I'm with you after that initial group. I have him somewhere. I have him right before Kittle and Ferguson and right after like guys like the Kincaids and the McBrides and whatever. Engram, I would feel like I've never had a security blanket, but I would feel pretty snug and comfortable with Engram as a tight end if I had my first 5 rounds were I knocked the first 5 rounds out of the park. So I feel like I don't know what I have him projected for, but I'm sure it's probably like 70 to 80 catches. He's still one of the best movers at tight end in the league, and I would hope this year he's going to get to see more than what was it, like 5 or 6 either end zone targets or red zone targets. He wasn't targeted much in the red zone last year for whatever reason. Most of those went to Ridley too. So even with some positive regression there, I think the touchdowns go up and the receptions come down. So I would feel good. I would feel good about having him. I feel just like I have in my rankings. I feel better about him than Kittle, at least from a consistency standpoint. I'm still not quite sure about Ferguson, but Ferguson's the last of the guys I want at tight end, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. I would feel pretty good about getting 10 to 12 points every week at least from Engram, and that's a huge bonus at tight end.
All right, you talked me off the ledge. I appreciate you. So, who is your late round tight end?
Well, I talked about Kyle Pitts earlier, and I'm not going to say I planned it this way, but I did mention Jonnu Smith a few minutes ago. Did I not?
Go on.
I piqued your interest. Okay.
Consider it piqued, my friend.
All right. So by now, fantasy managers are well aware that new head coach Mike McDaniel, has struggled to incorporate tight end into his offense over his 2-year tenure in Miami. Then again, his best options have been Mike Gesicki and Durham Smythe. Smith may not be as good of a blocker as Smythe, but he sure offers more as a receiver. Gesicki may be a better athlete, or at least he tested better at one at Combine years ago. But Smith is a much better blocker and can make something happen after the catch. McDaniel was tied to the hip of Kyle Shanahan for far too long earlier in his career not to understand how valuable a tight end can be in the offense. I'm thinking something along the lines of a repeat of last season in Atlanta. That's 50 catches, 582 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Should really be the floor for Smith in 2024. And given the creativity and some of this we saw in the preseason and some of the injury woes with Odell Beckham Jr., it would not surprise me if he ends up being a bit of a joker, and that's a nod to Sean Payton and what he believes certain players with certain characteristics can be. I think Smith could be a joker in this offense. McDaniel loves players who do work after the catch, and Smith remains one of the best at it, despite pushing 30 years of age. Who's your late round guy?
Yeah, it would be nice to see Jonnu finally get a full chance at tight end.
Yeah, we were teased in Tennessee. I mean, we saw glimpses of it. New England never got around to using him, right?
despite how they signed him and paid him.
And then I don't know how much Atlanta was bad quarterback play, and I don't know. I think we saw. I think one of the reasons Arthur Smith used him so much last year was because he knew Kyle Pitts wasn't healthy. That's what I want to believe, and I don't know, but that does not mean that I think he's any worse than he was during his Tennessee days. So anyway, late round guy for you.
All right, sir. I can't sing the praises of a reliable tight end anymore for Aaron Rodgers, right? Which is why my late tight end is Tyler Conklin.
Yeah.
Now, Rodgers hasn't had a good tight end since Jermichael Finley. I mean, there were some solid seasons from like an old Jimmy Graham, Robert Tonyan, but his last great season, I would think, would be like Jermichael Finley, where he posted 61 catches, 667 yards for 2 TDs. And in a moment, Doug, of Kennedy's secretary was Lincoln and Lincoln's secretary was Kennedy, can you guess how many targets Finley had in that season?
Well, you said 60. How many 60 catches?
61 catches.
I remember this well because I was all over Finley that time. I felt like a king of the castle that year. I think it was 2009. I don't know. I'm gonna say 85. 85
so targets. Close, Doug. It was 87. 87. Just like Conklin has had the past 3 seasons. I'm sorry for this out there. I think my tinfoil hat might be on too close. Come on. This is Kismet, right? 87? That's it. So, anyway, you're not drafting Conklin to be your starter.
That's good stuff.
But he has a low-end tight end 1 upside every week. Pick him up as your backup, and you might have to start him in case something happens to your starter. Conklin's going to be fine. He's going to make sure you get 6 to 8 points. But that's good to have in case of an injury. And who knows? He might catch a touchdown every once in a while.
And JJ, before we wrap,
we're going to wrap at the end. Wrap up. I'm sorry. I thought I was going to drop some bars. Go ahead, my friend.
You, sir, are no Vanilla Ice. And well, anyway. Just to tell you that we practice what we preach here, or at least I do anyway, in one of my Kings Classics leagues that we drafted at the beginning of last month. My 2 tight ends, because I waited on tight end in the snake draft. My 2 tight ends in that league are Tyler Conklin and Jonnu Smith.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's exciting. Oh, it's not tight end premium, though.
No, but it's when you're able to figure out what you can do everywhere else. And this is a 14-team league, so.
And everybody hates their team when they leave that league.
Yeah.
That draft is not a happy time. All right, sir. It is time to say goodbye and let the people know where they can find us and any final thoughts that we might have. You're up, sir.
All right. As I teased earlier, my bold predictions hit the FF Today site on Tuesday. Please give that a read. As I announced last week, I believe it was last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I think it was last week. I will be starting a new column with Fantasy Points next week. What I'll be doing there is watching every game, the condensed version of every game, taking notes, and trying to incorporate the Fantasy Points data suite as much as possible into a short article for me, but a lengthy article for some, I guess. But
30,000 words a week.
It won't be a novel by any stretch of imagination, and it won't cover every game because I won't have the space to do that. But so think of it like the top 5 or 10 things that I noticed from my perusing of the games, and things that you can take into the next week, maybe help you with waiver claims or lineup setting or just long-term planning. Maybe there might even be some dynasty usage to it too. So
careful. Let's not step on the dynasty toes. That's my other pod. Is that it, buddy?
That's what I got. That's what I got.
All right. Well, I'm at JJ Wenner on Twitter or X, whatever you call it. Thank you to Doug for his work on this episode, as always. This was a lot of fun tonight. I'm looking forward. Doug and I were sharing earlier that it is a little bit sad sometimes when you create content all off season, everything's hypotheticals. And now it's time that you have to put in all your waiver claims and do all the work of the actual season. It's sort of like Christmas Day versus Christmas Eve. When Christmas Eve, everything's a possibility. But on Christmas Day, you got what you got.
And there's a mess to clean up afterwards.
Right? We all got what we got, and you're going to have to make some waiver moves. So stay on the wire, guys. Tune in Thursday night to Rider Dynasty, where we're going to introduce the Dynasty Debrief and the players we are watching this season. And then come back next week when Doug and I review the critical games from week 1. So thank you for tuning in. And remember, when in doubt, go all out. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.